number 1 and 2 that I would like to take up today. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in him will I trust. While taking your seat, look at somebody and tell them his unrestricted presence. His unrestricted presence. That's what I want to talk to you about today. His unrestricted presence. Amen. Just in line, I ain't saying nothing new than I've already been saying. For I don't know why the Lord is leading me this way, but for the last few days now, he's just been talking to me about get the people in my presence. Just bring them into my presence. And sometimes getting into God's presence, it burns. It burns. Do I have any real folk in here? It burns. It burns to let go of entertainment all day long. Maybe I'm talking to the wrong church. Amen. Some folk in Miami tried to get me to stay. Could you stay Saturday night and then stay Sunday all day? I said, no, I got to go home. I got to go home. I got things I got to do. Church looking for me. Amen. Well, would you think about coming back? What you want me to do? Amen. I'm glad to be home. Glad to be home. But listen. God is calling for intimacy. This is a season. Somebody say season of intimacy. It's a season of intimacy. I'm telling you now, get your focus on, because he's literally separating the virgins now. I preached a message, I need to resurrect it. Where's Sister Jed at? I need to tell her, don't let me forget. I need to resurrect at midnight. Virgins say no. I need to resurrect that one. Don't let me forget that, Sister Jed. Don't let me forget that. At midnight, virgins say no. I'm going to resurrect that one. All right. Anybody remember that message? I preached it. I'm going to resurrect it. I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to rewrite that one. At midnight, virgins say no. I'm in the text. Don't be looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm in the text. I'm right in the book. Amen. 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 His unrestricted presence. His unrestricted presence. As the deer panteth after the water brook, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. This is the cry of the psalmist who declared that God was his watering station. God was the one who satisfied his thirst. God was the one who literally quenched and took that desire out of him that he had. Have to understand then that the psalmist is crying out because the vicissitudes of life were like a desert place. Relationships gone bad. Positions not what they were cracked up to be. Circumstances weighing on his shoulders. Situations gone real bad to the point where his sons were against him. Situations gone so bad until he had he had close to 10 women in the same house, sleeping with all of them, and all of them were mad with him. Absalom sees this, and he gets indignation in his heart. Solomon sees this, and he patterns his life exactly after his father and takes it to a complete different level. When you understand what's going on, you would see then that he thirsts for God because life itself was a desert place. He thirsts for God because situations were draining him and causing his throat, his spiritual throat, to be parched and dry. Causing his mind to begin to race and begin to run after the presence of God, because he knew he had tasted the presence of God previously. He had experienced the nearness of God. He experienced the caress of God. He had experienced being in the presence of God, and God satisfied him like none other. God did something for him that no other person, no other situation or circumstance or individual or entity can do for him. So he longed to get back to that place in God. He wanted God to do for him what God used to do. He wanted God to do for him what God did previously. And that's why he said, my soul thirsts for thee, God. Because he understood that emotionally he was wrung out. He understood psychologically that he was spent. He understood that through the experiences of his life he came to the brink of destruction. But there was something about being in the presence of God. There was something about touching God and God touching him that caused him to long for that presence of God again. He called God the living God, because he knew that situations die out. He knew that circumstances would die. He knew that relationships would die. He knew that even being over an army and being a king and having men at his command would die, and circumstances would come that would cause rigor mortis to set in. But something about being in the presence of God, he knew that God was a living God. He knew that God would give him life. Somebody shout life in the house. He knew that God would give him life. He knew that there was a source there. He knew that there was a resource there. He knew that there was a place where he can go. I wonder, do you know that there's a place that you can go? I wonder, do you know in your spirit that there's a place that you can be in where you and God and you, and you can talk to God and God talks to you, and you tell him the intimacies of your heart and your experiences during the day, and he does not judge you, and he does not put you down, and he does not look at you cross-eyed, but he welcomes you and embraces you because you are his child, fashioned after his own hand, made in the image of God, and he loves you just how you are. He understood God to be the living God. And he cries and he begins to understand that his tears has been his meat, because circumstances can wear you out. Circumstances can have their way with you to the point where they begin to drain you. Circumstances and experiences in life can cause you to cry when you don't want to cry, can cause you to moan when you don't want to moan. It can literally turn your life topsy-turvy, where you think things are going one way and it's absolutely going in another direction. You put all your stock in this situation and it literally turns against you. You put all your confidence in a situation and it literally turns against you, and you end up crying in the midnight. You end up tearing all night, and you look at your tear-stained pillow and you begin to ask God, what's going on? And God just begins to woo you back into his presence. Because for some reason or some other, deep down, because of the crying of your soul, and you're pouring out. Anybody in here ever poured your soul out into a situation? Poured your soul out? I mean, like liquid. Paul began to speak to the Corinthian church, and he began to share with them. He said, I have taken myself and turned myself into a liquid, and I have literally poured myself out in you like a liquid drink, pouring myself. He said, but you have not reciprocated. You have not loved me the same way I loved you. You have not responded to me the same way I respond to you. And I'm here to tell you today that life situations and circumstances and people and encounters and relationships, you can pour into it and it not pour back into you. It reject you after you give your love. The truth of the matter is, how do you receive a rejected love?